What we're going to talk about today is how we can maintain our connection with the universe throughout the day, every day. Now, if I were sitting where you are, I'd probably be wondering, why in the world would I want to do that? But I'm sure that that each and every one of us in this room has at one time or another felt lost and abandoned and didn't know where to go. And that's when we've lost our connection with the universe. We've also had the experience when everything was going just beautifully. Things couldn't get any better, and we were so happy we couldn't wait to share our good fortune with everybody else. And that's when our connection was the strongest. And my goal today is to give you some tips so that you live more of the latter days than the former. Okay? And the message I'm going to share with you today is going to work regardless of how you view the universe. I mean, some of us view it as God's creation, others view it as a spiritual nature, others more scientifically as an energy or an essence in and of itself. But regardless of how we view the universe, all three views have one thing in common, and they recognize a greater power, a greater intellect than what we have personally. So one of the things that we're going to take a look at is how we're going to tap into this universe regardless of how you view it. And with that, we're going to understand, first of all, that we have a connection. It exists already. We don't have to go out and search for it. It's there. We just need to learn how to use it. And we look at the fact that we're getting messages every day, and these messages are coming to us through our emotions, through the feelings that we're experiencing on a daily basis. But nobody's taught us how to read and interpret those kinds of messages and what to do with them once we get them. We also don't realize that the conduit to the universe is our subconscious mind. That's our link. That's how we get our connection, and that's how we get the answers that we need. And Dan Fazio gave us some insights a month or so ago into the power of the universe and the power of our subconscious mind in particular, when he cited some neuroscientist studies that showed that our conscious minds function at a rate roughly equivalent to computer speed of 30 to 60 bits a second, depending upon the task that we're involved in. Whereas our total brain capacity, again, based on the consensus of these neuroscientists, is that our brains are able to process 20 million bits per second. That's an awful lot of computing power, and we're not taught how to tap into it and how to use it effectively. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And when we get our connection, yeah, there we go. One of the things we're going to discover is that we can tap into the subconscious at will. We all had experiences where we've been wrestling with a problem all day long, and we go to bed at night with problems still unresolved, and the next morning in the shower, the answer comes to us, right? Well, what's happened is our subconscious mind has been working on that problem overnight, and it's providing the answer to us the next day. Again, it's just an evidence of the fact that we are already connected. We see the same thing happen with new ideas. We'll wake up and there'll be an idea, and it may not even be related to what we're currently doing, what our current career or profession or business is, and it's an amazing idea. And we don't recognize it for what it is, and it's a part of our connection to the universe. And unfortunately, we often dismiss those ideas when we actually should be pursuing them, because part of what the universe is telling us when we have ideas like that is that we're ready for that. We're ready to make that happen, whatever that idea is, and we're ignoring that possibility. And then finally, we can discover links using our conscious minds. Some of the things that I do, and I do a lot of reading. You have to be a reader in order to be a writer, but I do a lot of reading, and one of the things that I do on a consistent basis is that when I start reading something new, I ask my subconscious, what am I going to see here or learn here that I can use in other aspects of my life? And it makes some amazing connections for me. When I was reading Brian Greene's Fabric of the Cosmos, one of the things he talked about was entropy, the second law of thermodynamics. and I had asked my subconscious for a connection. What came out of that was an example that Brian Greene used in the book. I use in a leadership training program that I do to teach managers what their role is. Connection I would never have made consciously on my own, but it's there because of the subconscious mind. So we have a lot of power available to us here, and we just need to learn how to use it. The universe, as I said, sends messages to us, and it sends them in a variety of forms. We sense danger. It's the sixth sense that we have when we're driving down the road, and we sense that the driver next to it's going to do something really stupid, and we're able to avoid an accident as a result of that. That's our connection to the universe. That's the universe letting us know that. We fight our natures. I was talking to a woman recently, and she said that she is very successful with podcasts and with videos, and that she was starting to write a book, and then she admitted that she'd been writing the book for 2 years, and she was actually resisting writing the book. Well, that's a message from the universe that that's the wrong approach for her. What I suggested to her is that she do an audiobook and then have somebody transcribe it and she can get one into print. So again, we fight our natures, and when we procrastinate, that's a message from the universe that we're approaching something in a way that's not natural for us, that doesn't work for us. And then we fight nature in general. We try to persuade people. Bill was talking about selling here a moment ago, and his idea was to elicit information and to frame it in the context of what's important to them. Often we try to persuade people by using logic, and we don't approach the emotional aspect of it. We talk about the features, we don't talk about so we're fighting nature in that whole regard. And the reason we know that we are, or should know that we are, is again the emotional aspect. Because those are the times when we experience fear and anxiety and frustration, all the negative emotions. These are, again, messages from the universe that we need to do something differently. Now, one of the things that I often get told by people is that, whether they're religious and they say my prayers don't get answered, or I don't know if they're going to be answered, I just don't have a sense for that, or whether it's some other form of tapping into the universe that they attempt and it doesn't work for them. Typically what I find is the reason it's not working is that they're asking the wrong question. Think about the subconscious mind as a computer. It's a computer, and it's going to process what information you provide to it. And the question that we normally ask, again, subconsciously, without realizing it, is if. So if a new idea comes, we wonder if it's possible, if we have the talent, the skills, the abilities to make it happen, if we're going to be able to garner the resources. All of these if questions are doubts, and we're feeding doubts into this computer, and the only thing it can do with it is process it. Process the doubt. So we see this vacillation between, oh, it's a great idea, I really like to do this, I wonder if I got the resources, I wonder if everyone, and we're back and forth, and typically this vacillation ends up in us either not taking any action at all, or taking such tentative action that we're almost assured to fail. The question we need to be asking is how? How can I make this happen? How can I get the resources that I need? If I don't have the background or experience, how am I going to get that? How? Because that subconscious mind will provide that answer for you. So the problem is the if question implies doubt, where the how question presumes a result. And when we presume a result, the subconscious is very, very effective at providing that result for us. And to give you a quick example, when I came up with the title for this book, One with the Universe, one of my fears was that it wouldn't be attractive to people who are deeply religious. And I wanted to be able to help them as much as I help anybody else. And so what I asked my subconscious was, how can I make this attractive to people who are deeply religious without changing the title? And a few minutes later, I got an answer that says, in your introduction, indicate that it doesn't matter, which is the opening I used here, whether you view the universe as God's creation, a spiritual nature, or more scientifically. And then the next thought I had was, that's fine, but you got to get them to read the introduction first. So how are you going to do that? The answer to that came equally quickly, and it was put it on the back cover. Because people will read that very quickly. And if it makes sense to them and they realize that they're being included, they're more likely to be engaged by it. Okay? So my question for you today is, how can I help you become more connected? Questions? Yes, Lori.
So my question would be, so how do we buy your book so that way we can get the more in-depth version?
They're right there. All three of the trilogy are there. And there's an envelope there. You can leave the money in there or check. If you don't have either one, go ahead and take the books. My card's there. You can mail me a check, however you want to do it. So, thank you.
How do you know what question to ask as you're, how do you know what question to ask? Let's just say you're in a networking event. How do you decide this is the question I need to ask and get there?
Well, in a networking event, the question I know that I need to ask is about the other person and what their interests are and what's important to them. And it could be business or not business related. So I need to know who they are so that I can get that question, so I can get that information. And then I look for ways that I can take what I've learned from them to give them some insights into how to help them. So to Bill's point about building trust, I immediately build trust because I'm offering them a gift in that process. So my questions are always designed to come up with a question. And then subconsciously what I'm asking is, how can I take the information I'm getting and turn around and give them a benefit? And the subconscious will make that connection for me. Yes, John.
Dale, I totally agree with the subconscious mind. I've been utilizing part of that in my business the past 8 or 9 months. In your recent books that you've read, is there any books that you have come across that deal more with how to really push that subconscious mindset to strengthen it and bring it out more?
Well, at the risk of being self-promoting, that One with the Universe is designed to do that. But one of the books that triggered my awareness of this and my search and the awareness that's in that book was The Power of the Subconscious, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And that's when I first got insights into the subconscious, how it works and how effective it can be. Other questions? Yes.
This may be in the book. If it is, just let us know. But so how do you target down your multiple interests if your subconscious mind is saying, we like all of these things? How do you pick one to go with, or how do you divide your time to hit 3?
Great question. Yeah, when you have multiple ideas and interests that you want to pursue, and you want to know how to choose that, you ask your subconscious, which of these is my greatest desire? If I had to choose one, what would this? Because it will help answer that question. What are the advantages? What does this bring to me in the way of benefits? And then you can begin to list those. And normally the one with the greatest list and the ones you're most inclined to work on, to take the first step, that's the one that's the greatest interest, and that's the one you should be pursuing.
Any other questions for Dale?
You got an obstacle. Sorry about this. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that.
So Dale, in our busy lives, as we're asking these questions to our subconscious, what is the best way to become aware that we're getting answers back? Because I think a lot of times we're so busy, the answers are there and we're getting those answers, but we're not aware enough to receive it and to hear it. What suggestions do you have for us to be able to actually see that we're getting those answers?
Right. If you're really busy at the time, assign, whatever comes up, assign it to your subconscious and then continue doing what you're doing. I'll give you a perfect example of this. It was a Saturday morning a few weeks ago. I was working on a new concept, which is for a women's podcast series entitled Power is Beautiful, and there are flyers on the table on this. I was working on this, the concept had just come to me. I was starting to flesh out the marketing concept, and I get an email from Bill. And he and Glenda and Cynthia Carell are working on a project together. And Bill's email said, I wonder if we could come up with a contrarian name for this so that it looks different than what's typical, right? At the time I was working on this creative project, I got the email, nothing came to mind quickly. I sent an email right back to him and said, I'm going to assign it to my subconscious mind. I'll let you know when I have an answer, okay? And I continued working on this creative piece, which took me just a hair over an hour to complete. And with that, as I completed it, the dog came up and needed out. So in the time it took me to walk from my office to the door to let the dog out, the idea came to me. I got back to my office, emailed them with the idea, and I think you loved it, right? Yes, okay. I looked at the timestamps. I got his email an hour and 11 minutes before I responded with an answer. And the bulk of that hour was devoted to me consciously working on a creative project. That's how quickly your subconscious mind works, and that's how you can adjust it. Don't worry about stopping what you're doing. Just submit it to your subconscious mind. How am I going to make this happen? And it'll answer it for you. The next time your mind's free, the answer is going to show up just like that.
Dale,
Yes.
when you first started on this concept, you must have had to sharpen your ability and your habits in order to be better at this. Do you recall, were there any particular things that you did to turn this into more of a habit as opposed to something, oh, gee, I forgot about this? Do you recall any of that?
I recall the event that started all this, and this was probably close to 20 years ago. I was doing junior achievement work at Eureka High School, and one of the classes I was working with was the most incredible group of kids, juniors and seniors, that I had ever met. There were 28 of them. They were, excuse me, very creative, very flexible. If something didn't work, they'd abandon it, try something else. Strong work ethic, just an amazing group of kids. And the entire semester I kept wondering, what can I tell them that's going to take them to the next level? And on the last day of class, I was about halfway to the school, it hit me. And when I got there, I said to them, all of you will be successful regardless of what you choose to do. But having said that, the greatest measure of your success is going to be how many people you can teach what you already know about being successful. So this was my last opportunity to share something worthwhile for these kids, and it showed up precisely when I needed it. Once I had that experience, then I began to notice that this was happening time and time and time again. And then I read that book that I mentioned, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, and I got that insight, and then I began to do it more consciously. I wasn't trusting it any. The first part was I learned to trust it. Then that trust came from greater awareness, being able to see it happening consistently. And then I read that book, and I realized that from the tips in that book, I could do this consciously, and from that point, it was just a refinement process.
Here's our last question.
Okay.
So in support of Dale's presentation today, I'm just kind of curious with the audience, by show of hands, how many of you have thought about an issue or a problem, gone to sleep that night, and in the morning you had a clear answer for what your issue was? There you are, Dale.
Everybody, right?
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, Dale, we're out of time, so if you want to wrap up.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your help. If you'd like more information on these concepts, the Awareness Trilogy, as I said, is there. Also, I write a weekly blog post on these kinds of things on the website, thelifeothersdesire.com. Feel free to go out and check that out. Subscribe to it if you like. And I'll be around too for a while after the session, so if you have questions, specific questions, be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.